In a world where everyone is looking for your money up front, doesn't it just make sense to check out a podcast that's looking to give you something for free? Like the music for your content and free music for your film and videos? Look no further. It's the Timkulig Free Music Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Timkulig Free Music Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Kulig. This week is going to be a quickie because I'm fired up, man. I'm fired up. And I'm fired up for what? Fired up from the simple fact that these music promotion services out there are all a scam. So this episode is about the trials and tribulations and the warning of never using one of those services again. So what the hell am I talking about? All right, so back April, May, I got a promotion sent to me in regards to doing some advertising specific to like Spotify. So I wanted to get some additional streams, some additional playlisting, and I looked into this service called music advertising, and they promised organic streams and organic followers and everything. And lo and behold, that is absolutely not the case. What ended up happening was recently some of the algorithms on their site, on the Spotify site, picked up that something was amiss and awry. And just so you know, not just the company that I mentioned earlier, but any service online is using the same thing. All of them that guarantee more streams and more plays and everything else are all garbage. It's complete garbage, and whether they promise you organic streams or not is irrelevant. It's going to ruin your relationship with some of these sites, and now I'm like picking up the pieces with a couple of the songs that were running through rotation. So I literally had to pull down 3 albums, and I have to wait like 5 or 6 days to republish them so that the unique URLs that the company was using, they no longer can point to. Now they're going to be new URLs, and they won't be promoting to any of that. I mean, I stopped the service a month and a half ago when I got the first strike, but Spotify can basically pull you from the platform and everything. So now I'm like scrambling to make sure, like, hey, I want to do the right thing here. I was bamboozled. I was told, shame on me or whatever. Well, not necessarily. I mean, listen, they falsely advertised to me and falsely advertised that it was legit. And, I'm still reeling and seething from this. It's so frustrating because you try to do the right thing. You're trying to get it into as many ears as, earlobes as possible. And you're doing it in a way that you're trying to budget out, and you're trying to figure out, like, okay, I could do this, and it'll help get some spins and notoriety about the songs and the music and everything else, and just get people to be able to listen to it and show some, get some momentum, get some advertising momentum and everything else. But clearly the traditional route is going to have to be, or some other combination that involves social media and everything. Like, just basically, organic's going to have to be truly content creation, promotions, YouTube advertising, Facebook advertising, billboard advertising, and some like with Blip and stuff like traditional routes, which I don't know how effective that's going to be, but I'm going to have to pivot and do some other research on the advertising space, because again, I want to get this used by as many content creators and as many people as possible. And that was the intention of tapping this organization to promote and push the songs and get them in more ear holes. And, clearly that's just not the case. It's not the case. So the trouble is that any of these services, like an online service like Spotify, which I haven't found a direct contact there, but I am going to look into that as well, to try to contact somebody directly and just say, look, did the right thing the second I was notified, pulled this thing. So yeah, basically, if this happens to you and you're publishing music and you're starting out, what you should do is do exactly what they're asking, which is stop the relationship with the advertiser, which I did. With the second strike, apparently it came up in the algorithm again for some reason. It was probably because there's an overlap of time. Yeah, when you're dealing with these streaming services, it can be in arrears of 2, 3, 4 months sometimes. So when you get multiple flags, it's usually because they're looking at another period of time and taking a look at the algorithm and any of the stuff in the background, looking at irregularities, and it's picking them up again. Even though you've rectified the problem, there's still an area of time in arrears that is creating an issue. So by unpublishing the songs that are in question, now there's no URL associated with that service, and they can't ping to it anymore, and it won't be something that's reportable. Now, you lose some time and some momentum and some notoriety of the songs, and hopefully people using the songs can relink out, or it's not going to be too much of an inconvenience for their content. But the bottom line is that you just have to republish it again. And, I have ISRC numbers for everything, registration codes for all the stuff. So I just have to pop those back in, republish the albums, and then they'll get sent to all the stores again. But that takes time. And then there's going to take time for the momentum and for it to bake into the internet and into the socials and everything again. So it's frustrating. Lesson learned, unfortunately. I think I brought up my initial pass with this in a couple episodes back, but this one really, man, this really fires me up, because it is not the intention I had. I was not intending to, gain the system or anything. I was just trying to advertise, just trying to get the word out and trying to get the tunes out there. And my God, is that frustrating when you think you're doing the right thing and it ends up being a problem, and you run into this wall, and now you've got to backtrack, and you've got to take 2 or 3 albums that had some significant tracks on it that you really enjoy, pull them down, take some time, let it sit for a bit so that it can pull it all from the store so you can republish everything. So that's ultimately what's going to end up having to happen to you if you do this. If you end up using one of those services that claim to be organic and everything, it's going to end up biting you in the butt, and you're going to have to pull your music and your album off the stores for a bit, let them pull everything, and then republish everything. That way you have unique URLs for your music again. Nothing's going to point to that ever again, and everything will be right as rain. But again, lesson learned. This is an unfortunate, backtrack on some of the albums a couple of the albums that I had published over the summer. And it's just frustrating. It's just frustrating that there's people out there taking advantage of independent musicians in this way, and really kind of putting a huge monkey wrench in their momentum and the way that they're building their fan base and the way they're building their exposure of their music to everybody. So just be very cautious out there. This is a situation that is widespread. If you are in this space at all and you follow anything on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Reels, anything like that, and you see these ads come up, ignore all of them. All of them. In fact, this is going to be a very short and sweet, quick week for me, but in one of the next 3 to 5 episodes, I'm going to do a deep dive on how to really advertise as an independent musician and really get some help out there in regards to some resources, what it costs, what you should spend, where you should do your spend. I know that Facebook and a couple other platforms have very specific regional detection or like regional approaches to your advertising, which is kind of crazy because if you think about it, like any social media could be anywhere. I mean, granted, if you have a local business, I could see why they would want to focus on some local area. But when you're talking about music for content creators, I mean, that's global. That's just, I want to touch any part of the universe of Facebook when it comes to people that want to use it for reels or for other sites like TikTok or YouTube Shorts and that kind of thing. So, but I'm going to do a deeper dive into advertising. This is forcing my hand to pivot and understand that process a little better. And maybe it's just the universe's way of saying, hey, there is no free lunch, man. There's no easy way to do this. You can't just pay somebody a simple fee once a month and hope to get the kind of traction that you're looking for. You need to look a little deeper and be a little more strategic about your approach to that on the various platforms and spend a little bit of money, So I will have that. I'll have that soon. Like I said, if it's not this month, it's going to be something I approach heavily in January, because next year is going to be a big push for me. I just broke. I'm going to do a specific podcast about this, but I just broke a major milestone in publication. I've gotten 502 tunes out there, so it's a big win. It's a big win in that regards. Of course, I've got to republish 3 albums worth of songs before the end of the year, but technically those are all done. It's just a matter of administrative, headache and irritation that I had to pull them down and republish them. But yeah, probably early part of January, I'll be doing a podcast specifically on, independent musician advertising and advertising approaches, techniques, and ideas to maximize your money and maximize the exposure that your music can get. So hang in there out there. Try to stay away from scams. Listen, even people that have been doing this for a long time are not immune to being scammed by this. And it's very humbling to be able to say to my audience, hey, sometimes we make mistakes. We absolutely do. And in this case, I definitely did, thinking that I was doing the right thing, and clearly I wasn't, but at least I have a solution here to rectify the situation with a platform that I want to make sure my music is on. And going forward, obviously I'll be far more critical and introspective on the company that I'm using, and definitely probably pick them apart tremendously before getting involved in any kind of advertising relationship to make sure, look, there is no way that I want any of this to be not on the up and up. You know what I mean? So something to very much consider going forward. Anybody promises you a ton of followers, a ton of, not that they did with this, but they definitely were talking about organic playlists, blah, blah, blah. And all those promises are garbage. That for things to happen organically like that, you just need to do the thing. And that's what I'm doing. So going forward, just doing the thing, just promoting via socials with content, and also doing some traditional social media advertising, of which I'm going to do some significant research on and share with all of you on just exactly how to do that. So thanks for listening to me to rant this week. I know it's a quickie. It's just irritating having to take a few steps back to take a giant leap forward. It's funny. It's funny how this works in business, especially when you're doing this thing for yourself and you're building this thing on your own. You really have to... I've gotten pushed down here pretty significantly hard into the ground, and I am doing this particular episode to dust off and realize, hey, not every decision you're going to make is the right one, and don't worry about it. And you shouldn't either. If you're out there starting this process and starting on this journey, or you're well into this journey and you've made mistakes, and any of them have put you into a position of paralyzing because you felt dumb or stupid or just, oh man, if I make that mistake, what if I'm afraid to make any other mistakes? Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Get out there, do the thing, get your stuff out there. Don't worry about it. There's solutions, there's ways to pivot, and that's exactly what I'm doing. So thanks everybody. Thanks for stopping in this week. Thanks for checking in with the Tim Kulig Free Music Podcast. Look forward to hearing from you next time.